up, book lovers? It is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about the new authors that I read from in 2023. So if you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I'm the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out, and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And we are continuing on with the end of year check-ins, and this is always a very exciting topic for me to talk about because I love discovering authors' works, and I love checking in to see what I read differently from last year. And I am very pleased to say that I gained a few new favorite authors this year. I actually read many more newer authors to me this year. However, I capped it at 10 because this video would go on for a very long time if I happen to talk about all the new authors I read within the year. Overall, I'm going to be talking about some of my newer favorite ones and authors' works that you can expect to be talking about in the future. I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this list of new authors I read this year. I'm going to be starting off with Chloe Leas. Now, I've been seeing a little bit of buzz for Chloe Leas's works, but I did not realize that she was going to be one of my favorites. I mean, when I would look at the Bergman Brothers covers, I didn't assume that these books would be favorites at all. In my personal opinion, these covers, as much as they look really cool, I really like the character art on them, but in all honesty, the covers themselves don't scream that they are going to be a new favorite to me. There are some romance contemporaries out there that have gorgeous covers that are very detailed. I think one that comes to mind is the When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. I really love the settings of both book covers. I really like Ella Mais's covers. I mean, I'd say that this is like a smaller version of an Ella Mays cover. There are elements of each book on each cover. I mean, right here you've got a soccer ball. That all being said, each cover doesn't indicate what each book is going to be about. When you start to read Chloe Leas's books, however, you're hit with so much information. I mean, when I was reading this first book, Only When It's Us, I was a little bit overwhelmed because I just expected this to be a very simplistic contemporary. But as I proceeded on with the story, I realized that I was signing myself up to follow a family for 7 books because we are following 7 siblings in the Bergman household. Honestly, I'm really happy I went on this adventure. And Chloe Leas really surprised me at how she writes diversity. But it definitely doesn't seem like she's doing that for diversity points. She does it very organically, especially the way that she writes neurodivergence. Honestly, it's something beautiful to see. I cried many times while reading the Bergman siblings series, and I cannot wait to read so much more by Chloe Leas in the future. I think Chloe Leas is going to be my go-to romance contemporary author. I am considering perhaps rereading the first 6 books before I get to the final 7th one because this series is just magical to me personally, and then I do want to dive into the Wilmot sisters. I'm really happy I discovered Chloe Leas and that she's a new favorite romance author of mine. The next new author I have to mention that I read for the first time in 2023 is Beck McMaster, and I read this series right here, the Dark Court Rising series. I saw this book series on Fairy Loot recommendations list. Like, you know how sometimes Fairy Loot does like 18 books that are romantasy that we would recommend, or like, you know, 15 books that are inspired by Hades and Persephone, all that stuff, etc. And this book series would majority of the time make those kind of lists, and I was wondering why. I was also wondering why Fairy Loot wouldn't do a special edition set of the series themselves, and that's because they only work with publishers to do special editions. So unfortunately, they have to hold off until this gets picked up by a publisher. So I have a background in discovering the series from Fairy Loot and seeing them recommend it a few times. And I also have had like a couple comments saying that Beck McMaster's works are really good and I shouldn't sleep on them. So I decided on a rainy day I was just going to pick these books up. I had gotten them signed and personalized maybe? Yep, I got them personalized by Beck. I met her at Babe and I decided to pick these books up at Babe, and oh my goodness, this book series is in my top 5 of the year. I am so obsessed with the Dark Court Rising series. I still think about Tiago and Iskadian and how perfect they are. I still think about the story. It lives in my mind rent-free. I honestly cannot believe I finally read the series, and I'm kind of upset at myself because I kind of slept on it for the longest time. And Beck McMaster is an Australian author. I could have been promoting her this entire time, but you know what? Better late than never. I would personally highly recommend this book series to those who are looking for a new romantasy, who are wanting something that is inspired by Hades Hades and Persephone, but isn't exactly like ACOTAR and isn't exactly like the typical Hades and Persephone reimagining. This has a very good twist on the Hades and Persephone myth, and Tiago is a sweet cinnamon roll that needs to be protected at all times, because even though he is inspired by Hades, he's not that much of a dark love interest. I mean, yes, there's a dark side to him, but honestly, he's just so sweet, he's so beautiful, and he deserves the world. If you're wanting a dark romantasy where the romance itself is not dark, it's actually a very healthy relationship dynamic, then I would highly recommend the Dark Court Rising series. It has a great range of themes, and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm gonna need every one of you to pick this up. I cannot wait to read more by Beck McMaster. She has definitely proven herself to be an amazing romantasy writer based on the Dark Court Rising series alone, and I'm really hoping to get some spin-offs in this series, because I think that the last book was building up to a potential spin-off. And the next set of the new authors I read in 2023 were Tiffany Roberts. So Tiffany Roberts are actually a husband and wife writing duo, and they write monster romance together. And I think they are a perfect duo in terms of writing. They seem to be goals relationship-wise as well. But I've read a few books from them this year. The first one I discovered from them was Escaping Wonderland. I initially saw a post, I believe, on one of the subscription groups. I think it was the Bookish Box, and someone was highly recommending the Bookish Box either do a special edition of Escaping Wonderland or their Spider's Mate series, because they love both of them. As much as I wanted to read the Spider's Mate because it sounded pretty interesting, I don't know, I still want to read the Spider's Mate. I was very captivated by the Escaping Wonderland cover, so I decided that Escaping Wonderland was going to be my first journey with Tiffany Roberts, and I inhale read this book. I remember reading it, I'd say in January of this year. It was one of the first books I read this year, and I am really happy I read it. It's definitely one of my favorite reimaginings. I don't know if I've read any other reimagining of Alice in Wonderland specifically. I have read Heartless by Marissa Meyer, but I think that's as far as I've gone with Wonderland reimaginings. But I'm so happy I finally read Escaping Wonderland, and then I proceeded to read some of their other standalones. I read His Darkest Craving, which is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast inspired story, except we are following a shadow beast who only takes physical form every 20 years, and it's so adorable because it's a healing journey for the female protagonist, and so is Claimed by an Alien Warrior, where we are following a protagonist who unfortunately got cheated on by her boyfriend, and she was used by her boyfriend, but then she discovers this alien who's on the run from the police and from the authorities, and he is just trying to take shelter and trying to get back to his home planet, and the female protagonist decides to go on a road trip with him, and it's just so cute to see because they are discovering life together and they're just having fun together. They're both in tough situations, but it's beautiful. So based on the few Tiffany Roberts books I've read, majority of the time the female protagonist will go on some sort of healing journey, but it's a very empowering healing journey. It's not necessarily showing that the female character is weak, it's just she's been dealt a terrible hand and her love interest empowers her. I think all of Tiffany Roberts' love interests are just goals. They're so wholesome, they're so adorable, and best of all, they're kind of sexy. No, not best of all, but you got what I'm saying. I really like their works, and I'm going to continue reading Tiffany Roberts books in the future. Next year, I'm planning to read some of their longer series. I'm just waiting for some of their longer series to be repackaged, because as much as I do want to purchase all of Tiffany Roberts books, I want to wait until some of them have better covers. But that's just me. And the next new author I read / discovered in 2023 is Elizabeth Briggs, who is the author of the Zodiac Wolves series. So I read the entirety of the Zodiac Wolves series, at least the first 4 books, because we do have a spin-off book coming out in 2024, and I'm so excited about that. But I was pretty much addicted to these books. I inhale read all of them, and I am also very much happy that the Arcane Society did a special edition set of the Zodiac Wolves series, because if the Arcane Society weren't doing the Zodiac Wolves, I don't think I would have the determination to pick these books up. But I'm so happy I did, because the books kind of remind me of young adult paranormal, except you are reminded that they are not young adult paranormal when you get to the steamy scenes. So it has all the comfort of a young adult paranormal series, but it does have some adult themes at times. So proceed with caution if you are not looking for a steamy read. There's also a lot of drama in the series, so if you are wanting to read something that's dramatic, because you know what, at times we need to invest ourselves in a different kind of drama. Like maybe life is pushing drama your way and you just want to avoid the dramatics, like the real dramatics. politics. In those situations, fictional drama is appreciated because it distracts you from the real life drama. And in this case, with the Zodiac Wolf series, that definitely helped. Like, I remember being really busy with work at the time, and the Zodiac Wolf series, as much as it was dramatic, it was a very good series to cool off while reading it. I really enjoy the series. I can't wait to read the spin-offs that are planned for the Zodiac Wolves, and I can't wait to read more by Elizabeth Briggs. I kind of wish at the time that I met Elizabeth Briggs at Babe that I had already finished the Zodiac Wolf series, because I started the Zodiac Wolf series after getting the books at Babe, and as much as it was sweet to have some books signed and personalized to me, I'm kind of devastated that I didn't have the opportunity to gush to Elizabeth Briggs about the series, because this series is definitely one of my favorites of the year. I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it to those who are wanting a good new adult paranormal series that feels like YA at times. And speaking of book series that felt like YA at times, but were definitely new adult, another author duo that I finally read this year was Cen Crawford. Once again, similarly to Tiffany Roberts, Cen Crawford are a husband and wife duo, but they write romantasy books together. This is the Demon Queen Trials. This is a paranormal series. And yes, this is a new adult series, but this is one I would highly recommend to those who are transitioning from YA into new adult. And it's a series I would comp to The Cruel Prince because it has a similar hate to love fascination dynamic. I am so appreciative of the series, and I cannot wait to read more by Cen Crawford in the future, because if we are to expect more romantic dynamics like we got in the Demon Queen Trials, then sign me up. I am so there. This was a hate to love romance dynamic I could not look away from. I got so obsessed with, and I just need more people obsessing over this hate to love romantic dynamic with me. There are so many other book series I do want to read by Cen Crawford. As I'm filming this video right now, I have not yet read the Frost and Nectar series. There are the other Fae series that take place in the same world, like Court of the Sea Fae. I don't know if there's a Night Fae one or something like that. There are just so many book series by Cen Crawford out there that intrigue me, so I can't wait to pick their books up in the future. But the Demon Queen Trials was my first experience with their writing, and overall I'm very much satisfied with the series. I just need more people screaming about it. And the next author I have to mention that I read for the very first time in 2023 was Holly Renee. So a few months before I read the Stars and Shadows series by Holly Renee, which I'm currently holding the first book of at the moment, I read Holly Renee's Good Girls series, which was a romance contemporary. And from what I know, Holly Renee has a background in writing romance contemporary, and I personally really enjoyed the Good Girls series. I reckon that it could pull off to be a trad published series that's very popular. It very much reminds me of some of the older Tessa Bailey novels. I forgot what the series was, but Chase Me, Need Me, Make Me. It very much reminds me of that series. So I think that it sits around there, and I think it's because the Good Girls series was written around like 2016, 2017-ish time. So overall, I did enjoy Holly Renee's romance contemporary before diving into her fantasy. Her Stars and Shadows series, while it is short and concise, I still found it to be absolutely comforting. I think this is a good first dive into romantasy, especially for a romance contemporary author. I also really love the covers as well. I think that the covers look absolutely gorgeous. I think that obviously the Stars and Shadows series needed a little bit more expansion, but I found the overall romance to be absolutely sweet. I found that the messages this series was trying to send came across in a beautiful way and not a preachy way, and I really loved the characters. I loved the found family aspect in book 2 onward. I think that the series is absolutely adorable. It's not too deep. It's a very good series to read when you are stuck in a reading slump and you have no idea what to read. It's not too heavy in the fantasy and world building aspects, but it's very steamy and very romantic. I would say this is probably a romance with a subplot of fantasy rather than a fantasy with a subplot of romance, if you know what I mean. I really enjoyed discovering Holly Renee's books this year, and additionally I also met Holly Renee at Babe as well, and she was so lovely. I think she was one of the loveliest authors I met on the day. I had a few minutes with her, and I think it was because she was the second author I saw on the day. The first one I saw was H.G. Carlton, because understandably H.G. Carlton's line was going to be huge, but I ended up going to Holly Renee's signing table immediately afterwards, and we talked for a few minutes, and she was just absolutely sweet. And once again, I honestly wish that I read her works before meeting her, because just like the Elizabeth Briggs situation, I also picked some pre-orders up from Holly's table. That was the first time I picked some books up from her. She also signed all of them, which was very nice. I do have 2 Grace in this book and 8 other books from her, which is really cool. I kind of wish I listened to some of them on audiobook before meeting her so I could like continue the conversation, but she was very lovely about it as well. I pretty much told her that I have friends who absolutely love her series and I just wanted to discover her work. It was just very lovely lovely to meet her, and also her dress was really gorgeous. I'm really happy I discovered her this year. I'm really happy I met her this year, and I can't wait to read more from Holly Renee. And speaking of my experiences at Babe, I also met KF Breene, which unlike the other few authors that I mentioned that I met at Babe, I actually read this book series before going to Babe 2023. Right here, I'm holding the first book in the Deliciously Dark Fairy Tale series, which just so happens to be one of my favorite series of the year, and I did have the opportunity to gush about this book series. I said to KF Breene, you have written one of the best series that I've read. You've probably written my favorite Beauty and the Beast reimagining at the moment, and you know what? Obviously there's going to be more time to discover more Beauty and the Beast reimaginings over the years. I was very honest about this one. I do love this book series. I think majority of the time I just see the Beast written in such a poor way, whereas KF Breene really put some care into Nightfane. And I personally thanked her for that because I had let her know I had some really bad experiences with some other beasts in the past, and I think that she did the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale justice. Even though, yes, it's a very loose reimagining, I think she handled Beauty and the Beast with care. And she was so lovely about it. She was so sweet about it. She also teased that there were going to be some spin-offs. She teased that there was going to be a spin-off that I was not aware of. I was like, I cannot wait for you to write about the main character's brother. And she was like, that's not the one I'm working on immediately. I'm like, ooh, okay. There is another character that KF Breene is working on a spin-off for, and I am just as, maybe even more excited about that one. I'm very much looking forward to more books in this world, and I reckon that KF Breene is going to do an amazing job with them. I can't wait to read more by KF Breene in general. I'm not just going to read KF Breene's books in this world, I'm also planning to read the Demigods of San Francisco, and there are just many more series that KF Breene has written over the years, so I plan to get to them. But KF Breene was absolutely lovely, and her books are so funny. These books are just so humorous. There are times where these characters are put through like the worst situations, but they always find a way to be funny about it and to laugh about it. This book series is hilarious. Like, it's dark, but it's like dark and comedic, and I appreciate that. And yes, another author I met this year, but I did not meet at Babe. I actually met them at Rare 2023 in Melbourne, Australia back in April, and since then, since Rare 2023, I kind of got like 3 sets of the same series from them, and that, my friends, is Bree, who just so happens to be an Aussie author as well. I currently own 3 sets of the Bonds That Tie series. I mean, as in filming this video right now, I don't have the second half of the Arcane Society exclusive edition set. However, I have pre-ordered it, so it is on the way to me. But I have the original editions, I have the Arcane Society editions, which are yet to be completed on my shelves. But you know, I have secured a set for that one. And as of recently, I got my Bookish Box exclusive editions, and these look so lovely. So gorgeous. I mean, check this out. These actually arrived at my work's PO box. So I actually unboxed this set for the very first time at my workplace in front of my work colleagues, and they were kind of jealous, but at the very same time they were like, okay, make sure all your special editions go to the work PO box in the future. I told them no, because taking these back home from work, that was a pretty rough experience. These are pretty heavy, and I just wanted to make sure that I got them home safe. The reason why I got some of my special editions sent to my work PO box was because I had no idea when we were going to actually sign a lease again for this apartment. We have already, so there's not going to be many of those instances again. It was a very good time to be in office that day because my colleagues were really excited for me to receive this set, and they saw it and they're like, oh my goodness, this is so pretty. We want more book box unboxings here live, please. I got this beautiful set. I have beautiful sets of the series. I'm so blown away by them, but I really enjoyed my reading experience of the series. I really enjoyed discovering how addictive Bree's writing style was, because you know what, like, there were some really questionable things that happened in this first book in particular. This book series is a bully romance. I'm going to say it straight out. It's a bully romance. Apparently it's not as intense as the Zodiac Academy series, because the first book in the Bonds That Tie series relies a little bit more on verbal bullying, but there's something else that is questionable that happens in this book, and I definitely don't expect anyone to continue after book 1, but I really enjoyed the rest of the series. I really enjoyed the character development in this series. This series series does have its flaws. It really does have its flaws. But overall, it was a dark romance that I really appreciated reading at the time. I kind of read all 6 books within 3 days. I was so hooked, and I can't wait to read more by Breene. There's her new series, her new fantasy series that is out, and there's some other contemporary romances that I want to read by her. I had a fun ride reading the Bonds That Tie series, and I can't wait to read more by Breene in the future. And speaking of dark romance, the second new author that I have to mention on this list today that I read in 2023 was Stacy Marie Brown. Yes, I finally read the Savage Land series, and oh my goodness. Once again, not flawless. This book series definitely has its flaws, but it was so addictive. It was so fun to read. Like, at the moment, I'm still trying to work out whether or not the Deliciously Dark Fairy Tale series or the Savage Land series has its spot in my top 5 book series I've read this year. Savage Lands was so good. Yeah, wow. Stacy Marie Brown definitely knows how to build a world, but she knows how to invite readers without forcing them to go back to 10 books beforehand, because she's written 3 book series before the Savage Land series. While the Savage Land series was not the first book series that she wrote in this world, she really made it feel like it was the first book series in this world. But this is a world that you can jump in on at like any time. I mean, obviously you have to read a first book in one of her series in order to understand what's going on. But I'm really happy that the Savage Land series was very inviting to those who were new to her works. I can't wait to read the rest of the books in this world. I don't know what to call this world. Do we call it the Nectarverse? Because I feel as if the nectar is what brings some of these characters together. So maybe we call this the Nectarverse. I don't know. The Stacyverse? I don't know if Stacy Marie Brown is gonna write books in this world alone like forever. So I wouldn't call it the Stacy Marie Brown universe. But yeah, maybe the Nectarverse. We'll see. But overall, the Savage Land series was a very inviting read. It was very intense. I did have a lot of adrenaline while reading this book series. I was very much addicted to it. And once again, it was very dramatic, and it was a drama that I really appreciated because it helped me escape the dramatics of my personal life and how much work I've got to personally deal with. It was a good book series I read also in the midst of my grief. In my personal life, I was grieving a lot while reading Savage Lands, and I feel as if Savage Lands was kind of there to comfort me. I really enjoyed this series. I can't wait to read more by Stacy Marie Brown. I think that they have a very addictive writing style. Once again, the series is not flawless. It's a dark romance that I think does not get it right some of the time, and I personally think that we could have had more POVs throughout the series rather than just the final book. But overall, it was a very addictive read, and I would highly recommend it to those who are wanting something that's addictive, intense, dramatic, and has a dark romance. And the final new author I have to mention that I read in 2023 was Carissa Broadbent. Now, as I'm filming this video, I have not yet read Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I thought that was the only book series that blew them up, right? I did not realize how popular the War of Lost Hearts series was until very recently. I remember getting up at 3 a.m. my time in the morning to get the Bookish Box exclusive editions of the War of Lost Hearts series, and I was so surprised when I found out that that set sold out within an hour. I actually thought that people would be sleeping on the series. I actually thought that this series was super underrated and super underhyped and more people needed to read it. But turns out, I just jumped on the hype train way too late. And turns out, I slept on this book series. The War of Lost Hearts series is amazing. Carissa Broadbent is an excellent writer. She absolutely blew me away this year. I am just so happy that I finally read her books. I discovered her last year because I saw this book series everywhere on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited and stuff. I just kept on seeing this book series recommended to me, and then I got these books for my Christmas gift last year. So, I mean, I finally got the books on my shelves, and I finally had the courage to dive into them in August of this year, and I'm really surprised I slept on this book series for that long because it's just really good. I need more people reading it, but at the very same time, you know what? I think people are reading it. I'm clearly not paying attention. Carissa Broadbent has many fans across the globe. Every single time I tell someone that this is my favorite book series of the year, even though they haven't read the War of Lost Hearts specifically because they've read The Serpent and the Wings of Night and stuff, they immediately understand why I've put it on my list. Once again, I don't know anything about Serpent and the Wings of Night. I don't know how far it goes compared to The War of Lost Hearts. The War of Lost Hearts is just a series that touched me like no other series has in such a long time. I truly appreciate what Carissa did with this world and with these characters and with the themes that she explored. This book series makes me cry, like, oh my goodness. I love Titania, I love Maxentarius, I love Aoife, I loved following them, and they hold a very special place in my heart. This book series holds a very special place in my heart, and I cannot wait to read more by Carissa Broadbent in the future. They have instantly become an author after my experience with the War of Lost Hearts series, 100%. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the red heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.